Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Fireside chat. I'll just spend a few minutes introducing SAP and why we're here. If you're not familiar with SAP, we are the largest technology firm in Europe, most valuable technology firm in Europe. About 3/4 of the world's GDP flows through our systems at one point. But a large part of our future bets rest in the startup and scale-up area, in particular in the FinTech industry. And so we are here today to talk about AI within the context of financial ecosystems, within the context of FinTech. And I think it's safe to say that AI as a concept right now is on fire. But if you blow away all of the smoke that surrounds AI as a concept, what you're still left with is astonishing. Since we began operating with AI as a concept, the ability to compute has grown by a factor of 10 billion. We just think about that growth for a second, a factor of 10 billion. How can we take a growth factor like that and apply it to the startup and scale-up area within FinTech? I think that's an interesting question, to embed artificial intelligence into FinTech in a way that it scales without breaking. And so that's one of the areas that we'll be covering here today. But I'm very happy to have with me here on stage you, Daniel, and you, Thomas. And why don't you start off telling us a little bit about who Fairstone Group is and what it is that you do?
Sure. Well, thanks for having us on. So Fairstone Group is a wealth management firm. So we provide financial advice to the entire nation, and we have offices in Ireland as well. So we are slowly becoming a multinational. We have 1,200 members of staff, roughly 150 million in turnover. And that has grown 32% in the last 12 months alone. So we certainly are taking advantage of all the available technology that comes with being a FinTech organization.
Yeah. Certainly, I mean, that is an impressive growth that you mentioned. I believe you joined in, was it 2008?
So the business was founded in 2008.
Was founded in 2008, yeah.
I've been at the business about 6 years now, 7 years now.
Right, and there's tremendous growth rate you've enjoyed just within that period of time.
Oh, phenomenal. The amount of change that you see coming through is, you don't often get to see it in many businesses, especially the well-established ones. It's something that's quite phenomenal to watch. Even from inside, it's quite phenomenal to see that growth happen live in front of you, while also being able to influence it.
Absolutely, and for us as partners as well with you, it's been phenomenal to watch from the side. Can you share some of the decisions and pivotal strategies that made that growth possible?
Yeah, so the business itself is, if we think about it in two halves, we have substantial organic growth anyway in the business, which is supported by giving advisors the tools to provide the right advice to the clients. But then it also acquisitive growth as well. So we do work with partner firms who we eventually acquire through our unique DBO model. And all of that is possible by putting the tools in place to be able to have a seamless integration period. It's not an outright acquisition model that we have. It's they come in, they work with us, they partner with us, and then we acquire them down the line. And all of that, let's say a 2 to 3 year period, is made possible by being able to integrate all of their systems seamlessly within our own ecosystem.
Cool, and have you been able to leverage technology then as part of that journey, as part of that growth?
Absolutely, yeah. So we are using our bespoke, we've actually created a bespoke operational system which runs the advice process, and being able to use that, and from a bespoke standpoint, we can integrate that with any system that these other firms, these potential firms, are using as well. So we've created tools to be able to connect and establish connections with many different data sets across many different established financial and advisory systems that are already in the space.
Interesting. So there's a lot of hype in the AI space right now, right? And some of it for good reason, and some of it is noise. I'm wondering how you think how do you separate the synthetic wheat from the chaff in order to determine just how close we are to applying AI at quality, at scale, maybe even nearing a singularity within FinTech? Thomas,
Right.
what do you think?
I'm really glad that, David, you mentioned hype around the AI, because indeed, since I think landing of OpenAI's ChatGPT, everyone seems to talk about it in the industry, so there is definitely a lot of hype. And well, how I define singularity is just the position where everything is run by the models, by the AI models, and no one fully understands them. So that's, well, quite a dystopian scenario we don't want to be in. And whether we're heading that as the industry or not, they are two schools of thoughts. There is more skeptical school that is claiming that we should regulate it and control it as much as we can, and we should put as many internal and external regulations for it just to not live into that scenario. And there are also optimists that are thinking that, of course, there are some risks, but AI at the end of the day is a huge opportunity to just scale up the business, improve the proposition we have for clients, and improve operations. So as Fairstone, I think we are cautious optimists. So of course there are a lot of issues that they should be controlled, and we should keep the models within bounds. So we should spend our piece on controlling those models, but there is a lot we can achieve using the modern technology. And as long, I think, that we understand the models, the particular models we are implementing, that's the way to go. Just to not let those models go out of bounds.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And one of the things we were discussing in the speaker room over coffee was, if you think about singularity as something that can only happen once, then we're probably not there at all. But if you think about it as something that can happen multiple times, it's an iterative process where a piece of technology can do something at human level parity or better than humans, then we're probably there. Or at least we've had that before as well. Probably nobody in this room, I don't either, but remember when BizClik was invented, but that's essentially the digital spreadsheet, which completely revolutionized financial accounting, the ability to do computations at scale and do it for critical processes in a business. And today we don't think about it, right? A spreadsheet is a spreadsheet. The idea that a spreadsheet or even a general ledger could be something physical is almost absurd to us, because we've begun to think about it as a digital first kind of approach. But there's one thing I wanted to ask you, Thomas, is this integration of AI in FinTech. It's a hot topic, and you too, Daniel. How are you leveraging AI internally in Fairstone in order to enhance your services, your customer experience? Could you provide some specific examples?
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because I think we're probably quite unique in that respect. I think for the most part, people will be seeing this and think, how can we automate? How can we make things better in terms of our back office? How can we save some money? How can we, we've heard it here at the conference, reading PDFs, taking information out, and that's all really good. But I think the focus for our business, and it always has been client focused. So the strap line for us really is, how can we leverage this to improve the client experience? And I mean, I suppose the main example of this is, there's something it's almost embedded in Microsoft Teams in its most rudimentary form today. But one of the things that we're looking at is being able to sit down with a client, just like we are now. The advisors that we have working in the business, they'll sit down with a client and they'll have a conversation over a coffee, and they'll go through all their financial history, about their family, about their wants, their needs, their retirement age that they're aiming to do, and all of these things. And then at the end of that conversation, we hand you a piece of paper, or these days maybe an iPad, depending on the advisor. And we say, right, there you go, Mr. Client, Mrs. Client, please fill in this form with everything we've just talked about, but just this time write it down for me. And the power of just putting a system that can understand general language in front of someone is that we could easily have an iPad or a laptop or something sitting there on the desk, listening to the entire conversation and intelligently completing that in real time. So at the end of the conversation, it's then just a very simple, is this correct? And all of a sudden what you've done is you've highlighted arguably the most painful part of the process for the client by removing, we want you to do something now. Whereas what they want is really just to have a cup of coffee you know, and you want to be able to talk about things with an advisor, because that's what they're there to advise. You don't want to sit and spend 20 minutes of your time then doing that reiteration. Yeah, but it's certainly interesting. I think from a personal standpoint as well, what I'm personally looking forward to is the inclusion as well. So if you think about financial services and wealth management, you've got all the big names that you're used to seeing. You know, you might have your Aviva, Prudential, Brewin Dolphin. And the big names are fine, but one thing that we do, being client-focused, is we are completely provider agnostic. So we don't say what some industries or some companies might do, which is saying, here's our 20 products. You can choose from one of these 20 based on what you feel like. We are whole of market. We allow you to invest in any product that's available if it's the right solution for you. But putting the client's needs first comes with data and you know, restrictions around the data that we have available. My personal hope for all of this that the industry might take on is that leveraging the powers that are coming to light now with AI and the like will allow all of these companies to connect a lot better and provide information a lot better as well. Because, again, going back to the example, you know, if we offer 20 products, it's very easy to get the MI on the 20 products. Fairstone works with, depending on which lens you look through, 200 to up to 400 different providers in any 1 year. And getting data and collaborating with 400 people is a lot more difficult. So we put the customer at the forefront, but it makes the data gathering a little more difficult. But we should be able to close that gap with all of these companies leveraging that same technology.
Right. Yeah, and data gathering is certainly one issue when it comes to using artificial intelligence as well. Data quality is another one, and preserving the semantics of the data as you use it across your platforms and applications and different business processes. How have you gone about that in your internal operations?
Well, so just implementing similar models, it wasn't easy road. It was quite a bumpy road, and we definitely faced a little bit of challenges doing that. And as we were preparing for this conversation, I think we concluded three major things that I think it's pretty worth to look at while implementing AI into day-to-day operations. So the first one is model understanding. I touched briefly upon it before. So once we talk about AI, that pretty includes a lot of different things. There are large language models such as ChatGPT. There are machine learning models that they aim to predict what's going to happen in the future based on the data that we have. We have clustering algorithms that attempt to group the data into particular groups. So there is a lot of that out there. And just to being able on the mathematical level understand what that model does as long as we deliver it to data, what it does to deliver the output.
It goes back to what someone said on stage yesterday as well, because it's been really interesting listening everyone. AI is such a varied term as well. There's so much included under that umbrella, and it's...
Yeah, there is so much included. So just to get what is actually necessary for the tasks we are given, that's really the challenge. That's number one. And number two is actually understand how that model behaves. So what algorithms, what mathematical formulas are driving the given model. That's quite a challenge, but that's something I think it's very important to do before even starting developing the model. The other thing that pretty much derives from it is the down to earth expectations about what model is supposed to do. So as we are understanding the model, we need to set it some boundaries of what we wanted to achieve, what we expected to achieve, what data we have, what data we can fit into it, what are the potential limitations of the model, how we're gonna measure that. And another thing from the talk yesterday is that machine learning models, they require continuous monitoring. We don't want to leave the machine learning model to do its thing and just check it, let's say, quarterly, because there is a lot of things that might happen in the period between one control and the next. So there needs to be continuous monitoring of such models. And the final thing, in my subjective opinion as data engineer, The most important one is proper data engineering to get rid of the potential bad data, to make sure that all the data is clean, gathered from different sources, and everything is up to date and everything is just ready to feed into the model.
It is interesting, David, because one of the things that I've taken away from this conference in particular is most of the people that have been speaking, the keynotes and everything else, it's all about being able to utilize your data through AI, whether it's been chatbots or the other things that we've heard. I think one of the key things that I certainly want to think a little bit more about, and I would encourage others to as well, is how can we use these tools to collect better information also. The industry struggled, I say the industry, I think every company in some regards struggles with cleansing of data, especially if you're an SME that's trying to grow very, very quickly. Yeah. And for us as acquirer as well, we obviously get some data in that we need to clean on the way through. But you know, if we're trying to get those outputs, dirty data is going to impact those outputs. But
and has SAP been able to assist you in that regard?
Oh, absolutely. We went with SAP Public Cloud, launched 16th of January this year, and I think the only word I would use is just alignment, being able to get a single source of truth for some of the data captured in the right place, rather than just allowing some of the teams to kind of put their view of the world on it. You know, we're trying to create that central space for a controlled environment, especially for the data. Brilliant.
So what are some of the exciting innovations and developments we can expect from Fairstone in the future?
Well, of course, we are working on a couple of models right now, and what we are planning to do is to implement CI/CD framework, so-called, so it's continuous improvement, continuous deployment. So machine learning or AI models have that nice quality that as we will deploy them, we can see in which areas we can improve it. Maybe there are some new data that we are capturing now that we can derive into this model. So just to create that kind of cycle of creating the model and then deploying that and then immediately just improving that and just keeping that cycle of getting better and better output. So we are definitely expecting some nice improvements into both customer service area as well as just overall operational efficiency.
Very cool. And yeah, and I'd say from my side, one of the things that's been fascinating is to see this virtual cycle. As a technology partner from our side is sort of investing in this technology provides, you might call a singularity within a company, and the ability to certainly do things in a new way or in a better way that you weren't able to do before, if that's how you choose to think about the concept of singularity also when it comes to AI. And one of those areas has to do with, as I understand, data quality, data cleansing, data governance, data curation. And another area that you mentioned is in how you develop then and scale your business in a sustainable way. So I think it's a good mature perspective on AI and how to succeed with it in a scale up.
And it is important. I mean, as one of the struggles of being SME is, you know, every director department almost chooses their own solution as they're going through from a very, very small business into something a little larger, and that's kind of the transition phase we're in now, where we're almost we've purchased a couple of products that's been right for the business, a few of which have been SAP, and then a couple of others also. But being able to choose that from a group level rather than just an individual level has been quite important for us to create that singular view across the entire business.
Good. So there you have it. Singularities, a collective effort. When technology and strategy and transformation are able to align, then that's when the real change happens and new capabilities emerge. And one of the exciting areas to follow within the industry, and one of the areas I'm looking forward to following within your organization, is how AI is going to continuously drive that change. So thank you very much for listening in, and I think we'll open up for questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you very much, and thank you, David, for hosting that particular fireside. I've got time for one question if anyone is wishing to jump in with one. If not, I have one final question, which I'll aim towards you, David, in this scenario. What fascinates me is the role of companies such as SAP in demystifying AI. The hype cycle is extraordinary, pick a suitable superlative. What role do you feel an organisation, a company like SAP has in cutting through that hype?
I think that's a great question. I think it was McKinsey & Company that came out with an analysis looking at how do organizations work with AI across the spectrum, and most companies are doing something. Very few companies are doing something that actually matters. They aren't going about AI in a deliberate way. They're doing small projects on the side that are isolated, siloed, aren't integrated. And from our perspective as a leading enterprise software provider, as a leading technology firm in Europe, is to help bridge that gap towards, I think it's about 87% of all organizations that are experimenting with AI, bridging that gap from experimentation towards actually managing AI and optimizing your organization on the background of AI. So bridging that gap, making it possible to actually apply it in a scalable way where it doesn't break, where you keep that data contextuality intact. That's where we're investing heavily, and it's what we call our value proposition in that area. We call it business AI.
Absolutely. Well, David, Daniel, Thomas, thank you so much. Really enjoyed your company this afternoon. Thanks for joining us here at FinTech Live 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you.